This is the 12th executive axiom, and this one is called construct and aim. Now, when I first started consulting, I used to put together an aim or purpose for an organization. And it was primarily made up of four things, which was mission, vision, values, and key measures. And these four things I'd have organizations work on for quite a while. But over the years, I've been able to make this process of coming up with an aim. Uh, it has a lot more to it. It's laid out much better than the way that I used to do it. And so let's just start and go through each one. And I've actually changed the names of some of these, uh, and I'll explain why as I go through. So again, the mission, vision, values, key measures. The mission was what good for what people, and there are a whole slew of things associated with that in constructing the mission. But what's different today than when I first started is it's built from knowledge. It's built from studying your organization customer in, which is the foundation really of all of the components of what I call the 95 method. And in order to get the depth of knowledge you need to go to those points of interaction between the customer and your organization. And in essence, study them, evaluate them, look at them, and understand that things like spreadsheets aren't going to help you as much as really hearing the conversations, maybe from a contact center, potentially from maybe a technician going in and doing some work if you have that in your organization. It also could be the interactions of uh, salespeople or customer service, not necessarily contact center, but account managers and people like that, and listening to what's going on. And by virtue of that, most organizations have some type of mission in their organization that's been written along the line. But you could take a lot of those things that you learn from the customer. If we're asking what good for what people, I find that most organizations struggle with both the what good and for what people. You know, defining that group of customers that are groups of customers that interact with your organization. And so you get this knowledge, you get this insight that helps you really refine the mission that you have. Um, so that's the mission, and I haven't changed the name of that, but that's the only one I haven't changed. The vision used to say, you know, what do you want the organization to look like in, say, 3 to 5 years, and you know, be able to describe that as far as a vision goes. But what I found is, especially over the last decade, is uh, the dynamic nature of change that's going on all around us with technology, AI, everything that's out there makes it very difficult to establish a vision, because pretty much the minute you do, 15 minutes later, there's some new something coming out that your organization can utilize. So instead, what I found was more powerful is really the power of story. Or instead of saying vision, I've replaced that with narrative. And the narrative of your organization, your organizational story. And typically, again, I get a lot of the information, or help organizations get a lot of that information from these interactions with customers that help define not only their mission, but also the narrative of the organization. So when you have a story to tell, and you know, different people will tell you different things about developing a narrative, but kind of the hero's story of how the organization was started, it could be something very inspiring for the organization. Just like as I spoke about last week, was innovation and the importance of having an innovation pipeline, something that, you know, shows that, hey, we did something different when we started this organization. That's what made us great, and we continue to build off of that because, if we stop innovating, we pretty much die, and that's, it's developed individually for each individual organization in the development of that narrative. So that's one of the things that I've changed. The other one that I've changed is I sort of values. I go with principles, and you've heard me talk about that, and the axioms also is developing principles to work to rather than rules and regulations and policies and processes and things of that sort, because it gives the workers freedom to act as opposed to being robots. Oh well, customer feels like they're coming up against a brick wall when they're dealing with organizations that have all of those things with no flexibility. So the key is to develop principles that people can work to. Now, how do I develop this? I develop this again by studying customer in the organization, customer in while studying the organization, and develop something that I've trademarked as the customer creed. And so the customer creed then is the basis for the principles that you have in your organization, and they're applicable to everyone. No matter where you sit in the organization, you understand that the work that you do ultimately has something to do with a customer. Is the lineage of that. So values are now principles, and then key measures now, instead of just key measures, because what I found is most organizations would think key measures, as I've noted, excuse me, in many of my episodes, has something to do with financials and or maybe productivity types of measures, which, there's nothing wrong with the productivity measure, and actually nothing wrong with the financial measures, but they're things that kind of come later, and they come from what I call the customer measures. So instead of key measures, it's customer measures. So again, the mission stayed the same. The vision now is a narrative. The values are basically principles to work to, and then the key measures are customer measures. And so this is the development of an end-to-end system, and there aren't many out there. Though people, put a piece in here, a piece in there, but my system that I developed is end-to-end. In other words, you construct everything you need within your organization from 5 components, and these components are the aim and narrative, which we just talked about, customer in design, the data analytics, so that you can get knowledge that you need for your from your customer measures to basically have measures that matter, that are leading and not lagging, which was one of the axioms that I did earlier. And then the fourth thing is decision making, how you go about making decisions, and I hit upon that in one of the earlier axioms. And then the fifth thing is creativity and innovation, which I talked about last week. So those are, when we're studying customer in, it's all of the things that I'm talking about, save maybe the decision-making component, well, the last two, creativity and innovation. The first 3 are definitely involved, and you get the knowledge to be able to do the aim and narrative and the organizational design and the data analytics, all from studying your organization customer in. Then the other things, as you're going through that process, typically working with leaders to help with their decision making and removing barriers in the organization and things of that sort, and then ensuring that customers have an innovation pipeline and a method to do it, so that they're constantly, you have something out there, as I mentioned last week, that people look forward to, customers, employees, something for the organization to get excited about that you're developing. So that those so now you get a sense of how some of this starts to come together and develops an end-to-end system. Now, each organization that goes through this, even if they come from the same industry, is going to have different result, right? Because they're going to have different customers, they have different aims, they have a different story to tell, they have, you know, uh, they are even going to have different analytics associated with those customers. Their decision making will be a little bit different. The creativity that comes out of having a method to do it for innovation is going to be different from organization. So it's not robotic. It's not something that every organization I work with, the same result comes out. It's going to be different results because, you know, different inputs going into this method. So that's what I wanted to cover this week. Now, next week, there will not be a 13th axiom. That won't happen until April because I'll do my final or my quarterly update on kind of the financial climate that I do every quarter, you know, for organizations. And those have actually been more popular than some of my regular episodes, primarily because I've been calling for the mess that we have going on right now for quite a while, seeing the writing on the wall. So that's what I wanted to cover this week on this axiom. And remember, there is always a better way.